We'll do our best as soon as we're able to get these deck lists up and running for you. In the meantime, what has been your favorite deck to play? And we're going to take a look at my favorite deck to play in Standard right now. So
Really?
we've answered my question.
Me too. This is what I've been
Oh, really?
playing. Yeah, we have so much in
What do you
common.
what do you like to what do you like to call it? Because I like to call it Ultimatum.
Oh, that's yes. I enjoy Soultimatum. I believe you told me Soultimatum, and then I got sold on it. I'm like, that's all I can call it now. It's just Soultimatum.
Yeah, somebody
So
else had given me the name Ultimatum, and I used it in every single metagame breakdown in for VML, and that's just what I've called it ever since. And it's probably just it's the greatest name. Every time you just call it like Sultai Ramp or Sultai Control, like all of these are technically true, but the card to watch, the namesake of the deck, is Emergent Ultimatum, and the ability to do these huge explosive things off of that card. So we're getting to see there's a few things different about this deck than I'm personally used to seeing. We're seeing the main board Disdainful Strokes, 4 of Jawari Disruption. That card is a little bit of a force spike and can also be a when you need it to. 4 copies, kind of a lot, but it's also helping you get land drops when you need to make land drops. We're only seeing 2 copies of Alrund's Epiphany. Typically, we're used to seeing a little bit more. And we're seeing something that I feel like we've seen a huge rise in mono red decks, and we're seeing kind of a reaction to that, I imagine, here in the Eliminate and the Heartless Axe, both being 4 ofs. We're going right down into the game. We are watching, I believe this is going to be a Golgari. It looks Golgari right now. We didn't get a chance to look at this deck, but it's looking like thank you. We are going to be watching Sultai Ultimatum versus Golgari Midrange.
Yes, both of these players at 5-1 at the moment. So we'll see. We are on the side of the Sultimatum player here with a couple options.
We can call it control in this matchup, because in this matchup, I imagine that it is going to be playing a heavy control role when there's going to be these creatures coming down, things like the Hateful Eidolon, the Setessan Champion. It's kind of playing an enchantment hinged deck, and I imagine that the Ultimatum player is going to be just kind of like holding back, waiting to do their thing, also to make sure that they don't die to something like the Setessan Champion, hoping that they'll be able to find what 4 eliminates that they're playing, because Setessan Champion will be getting +1/+1 counters, making Heartless Act not so good against it.
Yeah, and it looks like a really good play up here by our Golgari mid-range player, playing around that Jawari Disruption that our Sultimatum player left open last turn. But the Hateful Eidolon that will follow up that Setessan Champion is going to draw out the Jawari's Disruption, and the turn will pass back. But the Setessan Champion is now in play, so that was the important thing. So
it is now in play, but Sultimatum player does have an Elspeth's Nightmare. That Setessan Champion is just a 1/3, no counters on it yet, and will get destroyed by the first chapter of Elspeth's Nightmare, destroying a creature with power 2 or less.
Yes, and now the Sultimatum player also has 6 mana available starting next turn with a Fable Passage and the Ultimatum. So it's going to be rearing its ugly head as we see an Asika's Chariot hit the battlefield on the other side. But doesn't look that great. We'll see a Duress step from this Elvis's Nightmare. Probably taking it's taking the second Chariot. So just a deadweight and a force in the hand for Mertcan there on top. And Liltic very happily going to play their 7th land and just windmill this Ultimatum onto the battlefield. Let's see.
Turn and use the entire wrist to turn all the lands sideways and say, I know that you don't have anything to say about this, so let me go find some big spells in my library.
That's the one thing when you know that your opponent isn't playing any blue counter or anything. It's just like, well, this isn't tax.
It's so nice.
You know? No Dragon Magistrates.
It looks like the picks were Alrund's Epiphany, Elder Gargaroth, and Kiora Best the Sea God. Pretty standard picks. The Elder Gargaroth is kind of a newer inclusion in the Sultai Ultimatum lists, better against some of the lower curve decks, better against Gruul, better against red. So good to have that creature in this deck, and is going to hold down the fort against these cats in this Essica's Chariot.
All right, and we'll see an Ephemia, the Cacophony on the side of Mertcan here.
And moving Gigantha.
And put Giganta in the hand. Dead weight going to make Gargaroth. Instead of a 6/6, now it's a 4/4 trampler. So that does mean something because the cats can double block here. Ephemia also deciding to, oh, wait, never mind.
They cannot double block.
No kitties. Bad kitties.
And we will also say that those are all frozen. They cannot untap during Mertcan, during Mertcan's next turn. So we will have 2 turns to just kind of run these creatures through the red zone.
Ooh, and we're gonna see Tybalt, like actual Tybalt, not
Tybalt,
like the cosmic imposter. No, they're coming down on the battlefield. Oh, and a dead weight. Yikes. So much better for Liltic than it was for Mertcan, that dead weight. So taking care of Ephemia, that's enough. Mertcan says, no more. Let me sideboard. Let's go into game 2 here. We're looking at some negates. Ooh. A couple of Blood Chief's Thirst, Agonizing Remorse, Crippling Fear, Shadow's Verdict, Polukranos, and Coma.
I imagine if we're the Sultai player, we don't need to change a whole lot going into this. Perhaps these Blood Chief's Thirst, maybe Agonizing Remorse, to just make sure that the smaller creatures that are going to come out of this deck don't have a time to get under the Ultimatum deck. When you're playing the Ultimatum deck, a lot of the time you're just trying to live until casting Ultimatum, and then just like having such a big, powerful single turn that you just run your opponent over. So things that are going to take care of these smaller creatures on the side of the Golgari deck is certainly what I imagine the plan is going to be. I'm excited on the Golgari side, though. They have Solrolf, the Realm Eater, in their deck, and I'm very excited about that card. I'm also excited about I can't see his name this small. The Death Touch creature that makes poison, or that puts bounty counters, not poison counters, bounty counters onto creatures. Interesting to see that those are all staying in the deck when it's the Ultimatum deck isn't playing a ton of creatures that are going to be on the battlefield to destroy with the bounty counters. But it will be interesting to see how that plays out, and if that card is able to generate enough card advantage for the Golgari player.
Yes. Looks like we're finishing up a little sideboarding here. But before we get into our next match, I just want to remind everybody that this is the Standard Arena 2K, the TGS Signature Series, presented by Daily Hive. Make sure you check out Daily Hive for all your comings and goings in Vancouver. They've got you covered. Make sure you check them out at dailyhive.com. I am so ready for game 2.
I hate when I feel like I know the name of a creature, but then I don't say it because I'm like too worried that I'm gonna. It's Cheville.
Cheville.
Cheville, Bane of Monsters.
It just came into my head, and I'm like, I didn't look.
For some reason, I was like, that doesn't sound right, so I didn't say it. But it is Cheville, Bane of Monsters. Have confirmed it. That is the card. It says Death Touch at the beginning of your upkeep. If your opponent controls no permanents with bounty counters on them, put a bounty counter on target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls. Whenever a permanent an opponent controls with a bounty counter on it dies, you gain 3 life and draw a card. So it's trying to be a little bit of a card advantage engine. I imagine this Toski is also trying to be a card advantage engine. It's kind of really hard if you're playing a mid-range style deck to keep up with these more control style strategies. So I imagine a lot of the things that Mert can put into their deck in sideboarding are to make up for the lack of card advantage that their deck typically can't have.
Yeah, and not a very aggressive start on the Golgari side of Mertcan here. We're just putting Gigantha in the hand on turn 3. Not exactly what we're looking for, because if we give the Sultai deck too much time, I'm afraid of what's going to happen here. We see this in All Runs Epiphany, a Coma, a Shadow's Verdict, and an Eliminate in hand. Eliminate to take care of any smaller threats, Shadow's Verdict to kind of clean up the board, and a Coma to finish out the game. So this is a little bit of a dangerous spot, I believe. But here comes Toski. We're gonna draw a card off of that Hateful Eidolon and another land. So we got a couple lands on Mercan's hand here. Jawari Disruption, the draw for turn on Liltic's side. What are your thoughts going into turn 5 here?
I think I'm really scared about this Shadow's Verdict, but at least Shadow's Verdict doesn't answer Toski. So that's a bit of a thank goodness. Toski also can't be eliminated, also can't be Heartless acted because it is indestructible. So this Toski might single-handedly pull us through some of the difficult parts in this game, making this seem like a very smart sideboard strategy from Mertcan.
Yeah, so once it's on the battlefield, honestly, even before it's on the battlefield, it can't be countered. So it's just a very difficult card to deal with. I know that we have some, Liltic has some extinction events in their deck, but it is an 80 card deck, remember? So
80 cards means nothing.
all right. We'll see the Asika's Chariot on Mertcan's side, but then a Shadow's Verdict to clean up those kitty tokens. So nothing to crew the Chariot with at the moment, unless.
But at least this Toski can still come across the battlefield, hit for 1, and allow us to draw cards. Hopefully, it will also, be able to give us a little bit more card advantage. This Esca's Chariot's going to be crewed by the Gigantha and do some damage, get some Toski triggers. Sadly, there are no tokens to copy with this Esca's Chariot attack, so that's a little bit of a bummer, but yeah, we got some damage in, we drew some cards, we can't complain too much.
So we'll see an all runs Epiphany, making a couple of 1/1s, taking an extra turn on Liltic's side here. Draw a Maze Mind Tome. So can't quite cast that Coma yet, but Binding of the Old Gods is a pretty good consolation prize here. We'll see Binding come down, take care of the Gigantha. What are we thinking? A Molecule Rebirth here. And a Jawari Disruption to answer that. So the Binding will take care of Gigantha. And the path is clear for these two 1/1 flyers if they want to get in. They decided they're going to stay back, maybe deny a little card draw on Mercan's side here. We'll draw another Malakir Rebirth for Mercan. We got a couple of Ephemias in hand, a couple of Heartless Acts, 2 pair there, a Binding of the Old Gods of their own, and a Fabled Passage.
I'm kind of amazed at how many cards this Toski has drawn. I mean, it makes sense. Toski, once on the field, is very difficult to get rid of, and there aren't really anything that I saw in Liltic's deck that can exile Toski. So it is going to be difficult to impossible to actually remove Toski. At least it isn't going to be able to ever block, but we do see that Mertcan is doing whatever possible, using both Heartless Acts on the 1/1 bird tokens to be able to attack in with this Toski, showing you just how important and value engine this Toski is to Mertcan.
And playing an Ephemia with nothing in the graveyard to be able to exile here, Binding will find a land, and down comes Coma. I bet you Mercan wishes they had one more Heartless Act.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. Heartless Act would be really nice right about now, but I understand also using it to try and get that little bit of value. At least we've got this Binding of the Old Gods, but Binding of the Old Gods isn't going to also take care of this 3/3 token that is now on the battlefield.
Yes, unfortunately, Binding of the Gods seems to just say, force opponent to sack target token, and that's about it, unfortunately. As a 3/3 jumps in front of Toski, but Ephemia is able to get across, drawing another Binding of the Old Gods. Can we double Binding here?
I don't think that we have the mana. I think that we're 1 short.
Have we played a land?
The only
5, 6, 7,
we have 8. Yeah, we have not played a land. So we can, if we play this Darkborn Pathway on either side, I believe we can double
we can't do that. Sorry, because we probably don't want to do that. I mean, they would sacrifice the token in response and not be able
and
to
it would gain indestructible, yeah.
So
you are correct.
Just the one's gonna do, but They're gonna try.
Yeah, you might as well try.
Or just target the 3/3. That's fine too.
If the result's the same either way, you might as well try and get them a little bit.
Yes, but Liltic on top of their game, deciding, hey, you know what? Before you destroy my serpent, I'm going to sack it and make Coma indestructible, just in case. So that is what will happen. So a Temple of Melody will come down. We'll see where this scry ends up. Looks like that is going to the bottom. So no help right now from Mertcan and the Golgari deck. Thinking about what to do here. This is definitely a precarious moment. Next turn, Yorian's been waiting in the wings the whole time. Yorian come down, blink. Oh, 5, 6, 7. That's a lot. So
Liltic does have a lot of mana. It feels like the turn where we used both Heartless Axe to get a little extra card draw was maybe just a tad too hasty. We've all been there. We've all wanted to, get in that damage, especially when your creature reads draw a card when this deals damage. But it feels like we maybe should have held on to one of them. And now that this Elder Gargaroth is on the field, it could be slipping out of Mertcan's hands.
Yes, Coma not even attacking there, so Liltic probably very comfortable with where this game is going, where they're at, and there's Seraph, the Realm Eater, draw for turn on Mertcan's side, and we will see Seraph hitting the battlefield here. So many words.
So many words. The gist of it is when a non-land permanent leaves the battlefield on the opponent's side, Solrolf gets a +1/+1 counter. At the beginning of your upkeep, you can remove all the +1/+1 counters from Solrolf and exile all things with converted mana value, equal to the +1/+1 counters taken off of Solrolf, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's less than or equal to, and it does exile, which would be the important thing here.
Mm-hmm.
So,
would also, to get rid of Coma, it's going to take quite a few things off to come off the battlefield and quite a few +1/+1 counters, and then it will also get rid of our Toski, which is the unfortunate part.
Yes, that is very true. But I am sure Mertcan would be more than happy to take that trade at this moment. We'll see another binding come down and take care of Elder Gargaroth, so they can't sneaky reach block Ephemia if they want to attack with it again next turn. Seraph adding a counter, becoming a 4/4 now. So
kind of like slipping away from you, and it feels, from our point of view, we can see both players' hands, and it's got to feel like if you're the Golgari player, you're like, I'm so close. My creatures are like plenty big. 9 life isn't that much. I can squeak it out. It's okay. But we see that the things in Liltic's hand are basically going to be answers to at least a way to like hopefully find answers to anything that could come down on the side of Mertcan. Lands certainly aren't it, so those are going straight to the bottom, but we're just finding more ways to dig through our 80 card deck. That's, again, Nicole said it earlier, yes. 80 cards should make it harder. Sometimes 80 cards just really doesn't make a difference. The ways that this deck can filter through and find the cards that it needs, and the power level of all the cards in the deck sometimes means it just doesn't matter.
I mean, like, looks like casting another Omen of the Sea just going to make the eventual Yorian better. Maybe if they even need to count it. Oh my gosh, so many lands though.
Oh my goodness.
And another land is a draw.
All right, well, if there's any way that Mertcan is going to come back into this game, drawing a bunch of lands is certainly it.
We'll see. Coma building the Serpent Army here. It looks like it's about time for Yorian to join the party, so we'll set up for that next turn. Maze Mind Tome is going to come down on the side of Liltic here, and let's see. We decide to play, if Liltic decides to play the land or the Seagate Restoration. It looks like a regular land here, setting up a draw off of Maze Mind Tome, which feels pretty good. and Serolf. We'll go to that. I'm doubting that we want to trigger Serolf here. Probably going to let this one go for now. Oh, looks like Koma going to tap down Ephemia. There goes one of the serpents, but when you have so many serpents, an abundance of serpents over here, there are many slithering things.
Who will win, a wolfy wolf or a snaky snake?
I don't know.
This is quite the okay. I think I understand what we're trying to have happen here. Just trying to like keep as many of the permanents in play that are important to the Sultai Ultimatum player as possible. Doesn't want all the things that could be blinked by Yorion to go away by Solrolf removing counters to get rid of the Omen of the Sea and the Maze Mind Tome, I believe.
It looks like Serolf just gonna do its thing. Looks like another Malakir Rebirth. That's the third one this game. Is the draw on Mertcan's side. Mertcan is at a healthy 22 life, and if they would like to protect their creatures, it's not a bad card. Looks like we're going to Castle Lockbane here. Take 3. Another Toski. Not exactly what we were looking for on the side of Mertcan. Sika's Chariot going to get in, make a copy of that 2/2 zombie, and we will move to blocks here.
Ooh. This is okay. So as I've been playing a lot of Sultai Ultimatum, I personally have not encountered a ton of times where my Binding of the Old Gods final chapter in all your creatures get death touch to be the most important wording ever. Usually it means little to nothing. It's cool to see a deck that is built around that death touch wording being important. Like this attack means a lot, and the way that we had to make that serpent be sacrificed is important. And it's admirable to see this Golgari deck continue to claw its way back into this game.
For sure.
Ooh. Duress, certainly not a bad pickup off of the Toski trigger.
All right. Duress is going to reveal the Seagate Restoration, which will quickly go to the graveyard, as you can't take Urian, but you knew that was coming anyway. Ephemia, we're going to go to end step here. Maze Mind Tome will draw a card. A Wolf Willow Haven. Not too much impact here. Coma, going to make a Serpent. Going to Maze Mind Tome scrying here.
Yeah, we have to scry because we have to find a way to deal with the creatures that are in play. Liltic is dead on board if we do not answer some amount of the creatures that are in play.
Looks like Liltic going over their options here. The Triome, a Wolfwillow Haven, and a Yorion Sky Nomad all in hand. Gonna get in with the 6/6. It looks like Urion's most likely coming down this turn, so Blinking Coma is no harm, no foul.
Yeah, we're at 17 life. I don't think that the Sultai Ultimatum deck is going to do a Banefire for 11, so I think we're safe to go ahead and just take 6 from this Coma.
Yes.
It will be interesting to see how... I imagine that we're going to see a similar play of Coma sacrificing a Serpent to take away Solrof's ability and tap it again, which I imagine Solrof will crew Esika's Chariot in response. Yes. And I imagine that all of these Omen of the Seas are going to be looking for as many removal spells as possible.
Get a lot of looks and a lot of looks at a lot of cards. Keeping the negate is interesting. We see a Wolfwillow Haven, a Seagate Restoration. No interest in either of those. Emergent Ultimatum. A little late here,
Not exactly what we would have liked to see, but it's okay.
Yeah. We're going to move over to Mertcan's side here. So we've got Toski, Ephemia, a huge Sorrel, 3 zombie tokens, 2 kitty cat tokens, and a Sika Chariot kind of waiting in the back there. Mm-hmm. We're going to go to Chapter 3 of the Binding of the Old Gods, and everything's got Death Touch once again. So let's see. A Temple.
I do believe Mertcan is lethal. When I counted it the first time, I'm pretty sure it was lethal, and I'm pretty sure it still is. And I don't think that we want to crew the chariot because it would take us away from as many individual creatures that can come in to deal damage as possible. If we do activate this Maze Mind Tome and draw a removal spell, I believe we are still in this game on the side of Lil Tick.
I believe if they block the 7/7, the and 4 of the 2/2s, they take one of the 2/2s,
7?
the 2 and a 1/1. I believe they take 7 and go to 1.
Ooh.
So, but math is for blockers, but I guess that's what we're trying to figure out. So,
okay, yeah, you're right. I was incorrect. It is 7.
Why isn't Toski a 2/1?
Oh, if only.
Big old squirrel. All right, and need to sack those serpents to coma. Make sure your coma doesn't die too, but definitely making that Serolf bigger at the same time. So Serolf just getting scarier.
Yeah, this is... And I think, honestly, at this point, you just want to keep Sorrelf as big as possible. Like, maybe you don't care about the other part of Sorrelf.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Yorian and the Serpent token are set up to die, which would trigger it to a 7, which would be enough to exile Coma and kind of wipe everything and start over. But there is an emergent ultimatum in Lil Tick's hand if they are able to get to that point. Looks like Malakir Rebirth on Ephemia here.
It'll be interesting to see, if that gets negated. I wouldn't have done it personally, and we see Lil Tick also choosing to not really care about Ephemia, the other cacophony? How that word?
I say cacophony.
Cacophony.
But I don't.
That's correct. It's a strange word.
It is definitely a strange word, and it's definitely a fringe playable standard card, a card that we haven't seen a lot in this format. It's funny, before I was saying this is like a celebration of standard. There's so many archetypes, but like there's a few cards here, like Serolf never really got their time in the sun. Ephemia,
Serolf is new. Serolf got time.
Serolf is pretty new. Serolf's got time.
Serolf's from the latest set. Serolf is new.
Really? Is it that new?
No Call way. Time. Call Time was the last set to come out. Standard set to come out.
I guess I've done so many drafts and I never opened a Serolf, so I wouldn't know.
I have opened a Serolf. Did it do very good for me? Not really.
No.
But I don't think that's Serolf's fault. Serolf is a good doggo.
I believe it. All doggos are good doggos.
True.
So
we would know. All right, we're gonna legend rule our first Toski to have an untapped one to make sure that we won't randomly die, as we are at 9 life on the side of Mertcan.
Yes, and that actually, let's see. And we played a hateful. Mertcan played a hateful Eidolon as well. Looks like we're doing some digging with our Maze Mind tomes and our omens.
It would not be unheard of to find enough removal spells to clutch this out. Toski, very difficult to remove though, so it doesn't seem like it's very likely that we'll be able to find a way to push through 9 damage. We only have a 6/6 in play.
Pelukranos, though, a really good draw here. A nice setup there. I don't think it would do enough. As you said, we can only attack for 6. So not quite.
Yeah. I mean, with this emergent ultimatum, we have to find an extinction event because it's our only answer to Toski. And just like as many removal spells as possible, but Mertcan's just going to say, you can't have extinction event, I imagine.
Which would also take care of a lot of those tokens, which Shadow's Verdict would also take care of. But it also takes care of the Serpent token. There's only one at the moment, so perhaps not as much to think about.
Yeah, Lil Tick choosing to say, I want Shadow's Verdict, Alrund's Epiphany, and Valky. Valky does say exile. Valky does get rid of Toski, so that's one of the big problems. So it's either take an extra turn or remove all your creatures in play, and we'll see what Merkin decides they don't want to see Liltic cast.
I mean, the Tybalt is actually a little scary with Sarulf on 7, because it does exile each other non-land permanent. It's not just creatures, so it gets rid of everything. We'll see.
Very true. Though having an extra turn with an extra creature to attack with, Merkin is at 9, so this could potentially be quite scary. However, Toski does have indestructible, but I imagine this Tybalt's going to answer Toski. This is getting intense.
It's
always intense when somebody's at 1 life.
Right? So it looks like we got a minus on the Toski there. Tybalt taking care of the Toski. Perhaps we know about Mercan's hand here with Malakir Rebirth, but that doesn't take care of that.
I don't think Malakir Rebirth works.
Nope, it's just
exiling.
dies.
Yeah,
it's not when leaves the battlefield, so it doesn't save it from nothing. It could Heartless Act it, I suppose, but so the 6/6 is gonna get in. There is a Hateful Eidolon back there, and a 2/2 token waiting to block. Tybalt on 2 loyalty here. Doing all this at 1 life, by the way. This is a lot. And Pelucranos waiting in the wings, so there is a chance that Pelucranos can come down here and then next turn just fight whatever blockers are left.
We're taking an extra turn after this one, yes?
Yes.
So it doesn't matter. We have more than 10 damage in play. We have 11 damage in play. Well, I guess, yes, playing around the Heartless Act is good. So, but we do have more than enough damage in play. There's only a 2/2. Oh, wait, there's a 2/2 blocker. Sorry, I thought it was tapped as well. So the Pelucranos did in fact need to come into play.
Yeah, and it looks like Koma not even gonna bother fighting with a Pelucranos. We're just gonna tap down that zombie. We'll see Heartless Act. Thinking about their options here is Mertcan, who had Liltic on the ropes all the way down to 1 life. That Coma has been in play for, you wouldn't believe me with the lack of Serpent tokens, but the Coma has been in play for about 4 turns now.
Yeah, so Liltic has been extremely aggressive in sacrificing these Serpent tokens, and they must know what to be doing with them because they just took down the game against Mertcan.
Wow. Yes. Liltic takes that down with Ultimatum, moving to 6-1, taking down Mertcan on Golgari mid-range, who will move to 5-2 after 7 rounds. We have 1 round remaining after this.
Only
let's
one.
See if we have
and then a top 8.
Yes.
I feel like